Welcome to another episode of K&K Real Talk. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about sex and cannabis, and I will let my guest here introduce herself. I'm really excited to have you.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm Antoinette Gomez. I'm the founder of Pleasure Peaks, a medical cannabis company that's focused on women's sexual health. So yeah, we have tons to talk about today.
We do. So let's dive right in. So, what would you call yourself exactly?
Yeah, I'm a cannabis business maven, I guess, according to Toronto Life I am. But basically, I'm just a businesswoman like anybody else, but the industry that I work in is in cannabis. And it kind of just ended up being a passion project being here, noticing that there's tons of medical value here that isn't really seen that can help tons of lives. So my so I'm a businesswoman, but I'm definitely driven by tons of passion in my space, which I'm very lucky and fortunate to have. And yeah, I'm a mentor to many people, to many young women who want to get into the space. So I also do that. And yeah, I'm also a fiance, I'm a daughter, I'm a fighter, I'm a feminist. I'm just out here in Toronto, just doing the best I can.
That's awesome. So, what exactly do you do with Pleasure Peaks?
Yeah, so Pleasure Peaks is what do I do? So I'm the CEO of that company. So I'm basically growing it from the ground up, and it's really exciting. So what I'm doing right now is we're raising now a ton of money for clinical trials because it is a medical company, but we also have a recreational company. We also have a recreational side as well, and a lot of our products are very simple, but we also have a lot of complex products as well that will need a ton of research and it'll need a lot of funding. So what I'm doing is I'm raising a lot of funding for our next research phase for the company, but I'm also creating partnerships for global retail markets as well. So we can get this cannabis product into the global market, because what Pleasure Peaks aims to do is to help women with cervical cancer, women with endometriosis, women with chronic yeast infections, PCOS, dyspareunia. There's a million things out there that are issues that it comes to women's sexual health, and there's no company out there that really looks at alternative therapies when it comes to women's sexual health. Right now, we only have pharmaceutical products that are on the market, and we're finding that they're not that effective, and they have a lot of terrible side effects as well, or we have very invasive opportunities too. So what we aim to do is just be a healthier alternative for women's sexual health, to really just empower them to have an optimal sex life regardless of whatever barriers that they're dealing with. So yeah, that's basically what I do at Pleasure Peaks, is building a business from the ground up, as well as being a feminist and working for women's rights and women's research as well, when it comes to sexual health.
That's amazing. I'm super excited to see all your products and hear about the clinical trials. So, what would you say, like, how can cannabis help painful sex, and how can it help women have a better sex life?
Yeah, so my background, is like holistic nutrition, and I used to work at a chronic pain clinic for about 6 years ago. And when I was working at that clinic, what I was noticing was many of our patients were chronic pain patients that were using cannabis. And what I found is that cannabis can help pain in a multitude of different ways. It can help pain when it comes to inflammation, so lessening the inflamed area, but it also works with nerve pain. So not actually sending the signals of that response of that you're in pain to that localized area. So how cannabis can help, and how that translates to how it can help women in her sexual life, is using it in either like smoking, just inhalation, using cannabis to either put her anxieties at bay, or maybe to feel more in her body, or maybe to feel a little bit more intimate and close with her partner. Those are three different ways how one can feel that by just consuming cannabis that way. Or it can be used as a topical. You know, cannabis can be used when it comes to pain as a topical. So like think of a cannabis lubricant. That's also something that Pleasure Peaks is developing. A lubricant that can be used in the vaginal area, because a lot of women today face a lot of pain during sex, especially women with endometriosis, or have PCOS or have chronic yeast infections, and the list goes on. So when it comes to pain during intercourse, it's actually a very common thing. So, and cannabis can help lessen that pain, which is great that we're finding. Um, and yeah, not only that, we can also use it topical on the outside of the body. You know, a lot of women face menstrual pain, right? So a lot of women deal with this pain every single month. And what's really cool that I found on really early on is that cannabis can be used as a topical on the lower abdomen, and it gets rid of pain almost in seconds, which is incredibly effective. And you don't even need to have, it doesn't even need to be inserted in the body. You can just put it on your lower abdomen whenever you please, and you don't actually need to feel high because it's a topical, right? So it only affects that localized area, which is like a really great hack. So we're finding all of these cool applications to help that area. And I'm really happy that I found this, because it has the opportunity to help tons of women, no matter what they're feeling with, because there's a lot of things that can get in that can become barriers when it comes to our sex life.
I love topicals. They are great. They work
You
so fast.
changed my life. Like I used to have incredible like pain every single month, to the point where I would have to stop everything that I'm doing and just like fall over and cry. Like I would be in so much pain that I had to just cancel all my meetings, and or sometimes I would have to smoke a joint to not be in pain. But then I would be actually high at my meeting. So after I found out that those topicals can really help you almost instantly with no side effects, it's just a lifesaver, you know?
I totally agree. I started using topicals and oh my God, I love them. Like I've been having shin pain and you just put some on there and it feels 100% better, I would say.
Agreed.
So what strains or products would you recommend for the ladies with endometriosis?
Yeah, so for endometriosis, strain specific for our women who have endometriosis, that's stuff that we're still doing clinical trials. So none of this that I'm saying right now is done by a doctor per se, or because we haven't completed it. But what I've known as being in the cannabis space for the past 6 years is that um, there's so much to it, you know. And as much as I want to share so much information, I'm also so careful about all the information that I share, because there's so much to it. Just because every woman and every man has an endocannabinoid system, right, on how we consume cannabis, and everyone's cannabinoid system is just as unique as a fingerprint. So your system is completely different from mine. So what you'll need out of cannabis will be completely different than I will need out of cannabis. But that's why it's so cool to bring cannabis into a pharmaceutical market, because we're trying to really pinpoint the exact things that we need for medicine. So after saying that, I would say that, you know, cannabis with terpene profiles, right? I love terpene profiles. They're not they're the essential oils of the cannabis plant, but they have tons of medical value to them as well. And the terpenes actually, I think, really tell you which strains are best for you. And when it comes to endometriosis, I'm finding that strains with high levels of mycelium are incredibly effective and are great for when it comes to pain. I'm also finding that when we're talking about ratios, a 1-to-1, a CBD to THC ratio is incredibly effective. And that's what I would recommend for women who have endometriosis. But what I also would recommend is that cannabis is incredibly effective for nerve pain, right? So topicals are very, very good for women with endometriosis, whether that be external or internal. As long as those are safe for that area, I think those are the most effective for women with endo.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree. I mean, I haven't researched into terpenes so much yet, um, but I can definitely see that. I mean, we really don't pay attention to all the scientifical information behind that. We just, most people who follow me just think that like weed is weed, pretty much. So like the more we're learning it's a lot more complex than that.
Yeah,
So
and we're excited to help, take that data and actually use that data so it can be the most effective every single time.
yeah, I'm excited to see all the research. I think it'll be really good. So how does cannabis affect someone's sex life, or how would it affect their desire towards their partner?
Yeah, so the way how everybody feels about cannabis is different, and the way how that person is using cannabis could be completely different than another person. But how you use it, how can it affect you in your sex life, and how I think it can affect you in your relationship is that cannabis consumers tend to be a lot more laid back. They tend to be a lot more just free flowing. So it's a lot more easy to communicate in those spaces. And it's a lot more easier to be understanding and compassionate in those spaces. So I think those are great. Like cannabis is great for like relationships that those relationships that you're probably busy all day, working all day, and you kind of just need to de-stress and connect. And you don't really have much time to in these day-to-day lives that we have. So cannabis is a great alternative to just really, not have a glass of wine, but really just like really connect with the partner. And cannabis in the bedroom can be great, of course, especially like CBD if you're a lot older. Like CBD is great for, just having more energy, better stamina, better cognition when it comes to sex if you're a little bit older, CBD. Um, the cannabis is also known to is a natural aphrodisiac, right? It's a natural aphrodisiac. We've been using that in tantra ceremonies since ever. So like it definitely is one, some strains more than others, but at the same time it comes down to dosaging. So if you use too much cannabis in the bedroom, it could make you not want to be in the bedroom. It might make you want to be in the kitchen or in the fridge. So dosage has a huge part to play with that as well. But if one person in the relationship is a cannabis consumer and the other one isn't, it can have some negative effects as well. But everything comes down to compromise and communication and working through things together. So cannabis can be great in the bedroom. It can be great at helping relationships, but it's not for everybody. But I feel that it could be great for a lot of people out there.
I totally agree. I mean, it's all on an individual basis, whether it's right for them or not. And like everything, it's trial and error.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
People
what do you
always want to tell me like, what are the answers? And I was like, I can tell you the answers, but it's so individualized, as you say.
so what are you working on right now?
What I'm working on right now is Pleasure Peaks full time, getting this business off the ground. It's so exciting. Ever since legalization happened, we've been having a lot more investors and a lot of international markets looking at the Canadian market a lot more seriously and really seeing the change. I know, you and me know probably we know that cannabis has been legal here for 20 years for medical purposes, but now that we go to rec, they see us as a legitimate medical company, which is pretty funny. But yeah, just continuing to work in cannabis and getting the word out there. I'm really excited to start a new campaign for Pleasure Peaks. That's really excited that we're working on. And yeah, and just growing this market week. We have a really good community at Pleasure Peaks. A lot of people are looking at us to like really come through with these products, and we will come through with them. It's just about creating the platform that can sustain all of this. Because it's a huge business we're trying to get off the ground, but it kind of just fell in my lap, and I'm just really trying to make the best that I can for everyone.
That's so exciting. It's a lot of work to start a company, so you must be incredibly busy.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so my last question is, in 2008, a Canadian team interviewed 41 adults. About half said that marijuana boosted their libidos, increased sensitivity to touch, increased closeness and with their partner and enhanced erotic pleasure. What would your opinion be on this? Would you agree or disagree?
I would 100% agree to all of those statements. It's just, I think it's such a beautiful, it's just such a beautiful concoction that cannabis is for an aphrodisiac. Not only does it, get rid of your anxiety and all of your stresses, you don't think about bills when you're consuming cannabis. It also gives you a lot more confidence to be comfortable in your body for once, to really just forget about your mask and not look at your ego for once, and you're just so much more receptive to other people. You're always wanting to connect on whatever level that you are, and it's just such a beautiful concoction. You're also way more into your body, so you're incredibly sensitive to senses and touches, of course. So it's I agree that it just makes your sex life completely better, just because there's so many parts to cannabis, which is so cool. And we're only scratching the surface. So I'm really excited to see like what we can come up with it. But 100% agreed.
Well, since legalization, I know that a lot of people are going to be doing a lot more studies on cannabis, and I'm so excited to see like the findings and what like actually seeing way more studies done so that people can realize that yes, it can be very helpful in many different ways. And hopefully with that, a lot of people will switch from like having a glass of wine or something before intercourse or being intimate with their partner, or instead they'll have a joint.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be a lot more like receptive to each other and feel more closeness.
And when we look at the stats, it's just a healthier alternative, right? It's just way more healthier than the other options that we have that give us similar effects. We're not damaging our livers. It's not ruining the first half of the day the next day. It's like they're very, very limited side effects. They're like very, very small, and it's so much more safer and sustainable, which is my favorite part, right? So yeah, I'm excited to get this off the ground, and I talk to anybody who will listen.
I feel like I'm the same way. Well, thank you so much for being on K&K Real Talk. I had so much fun learning more about you, and I can't wait to see what comes from Pleasure Peaks.
Yeah, it's so lovely to meet you. I hope that we get to meet in person one time and like work together in some way. Like Pleasure Pieces in the very beginning stages, and endometriosis isn't really like it's like such a small like diagnosis. It's just so not known yet, but it's so known at the same time, but it's not publicly yet. So I'm really happy that you're trying to raise awareness about it, because there's just nothing. It just doesn't get the coverage it deserves, and it's affecting such a large demographic that you would never even guess. So thank you so much for putting this platform out here and like letting me be a part of it.
Well, thank you so much. I had so much fun, and I will see you guys all next week.
Perfect.